All right. This is a live that I decided to do last minute. I apologize for not letting everyone know. Didn't have really many posts about it, but I did promise that I would talk about. Well, May is food allergy, celiac disease, and asthma month. So I really wanted to come on and educate you all on today's celiac disease. Again, Dr. Mister of Soul and Reed Physical Therapy, and I really want to talk about celiac disease today because it's something that is, near dear to me. That's something that I deal with. Food allergies is another big thing in our family, especially with my son who has a lot of food allergies. So today, again, I just want to talk about celiac disease and what it is. If you see me glancing down, I took notes of points I didn't want to miss. Okay, so celiac disease, excuse me, is an immune disease where if you ingest gluten, it will damage the intestine, particularly the small intestines. And so gluten is this protein that comes from wheat, barley, and rye, and some other grains. But it's a grain protein that, when ingested, it can cause damage to some people, not everyone, to the small intestines. You can have true celiac disease, which is where it actually damages the small intestines, or you can have a gluten sensitivity. People with gluten sensitivities are those who can have gluten in certain amounts, but those with celiac disease, they should not have gluten at all, like at all. So some of the symptoms of gluten sensitivity would be things like, joint pain, bloating, acne. There is something called a gluten rash, which my son actually has, and it looks almost like a ringworm, but it's not. It flares up on him, and he has that incoming and a combination of eczema, so it's kind of hard to distinguish which is which sometimes. It can cause hormonal imbalances, it can cause bloating, it can cause fatigue, weight gain. And so those are some of the symptoms of a gluten sensitivity. And again, those are very general, so most people wouldn't even think about it. But think about what you eat and think about how you feel after you eat it. Um, if you eat a meal, especially that something that contains wheat, and I'll explain some of those in a few, then and you start feeling bloated, are you overall tightness and fatigue and just like I don't feel like myself after eating, maybe you need to check into it. It could either be a food allergy or, in my case, it ended up being celiac disease. So celiac is, again, when those people who ingest gluten, um, it damages the intestine, like it completely over time. It's not immediate, it's a gradual over time thing. So what they would get is all of the above: the fatigue, the weight gain, the bloating, but they would also get constipation. They will have symptoms very similar to IBS, which can be the constipation or diarrhea. They will get they can have some fertility issues, with trying to conceive, issues if you're a lady, issues with in your cycle. You can have thinning hair and nails, and foggy brain. That was a big one for me, just forgetting, where things were. I didn't realize how big a role gluten was in causing memory, and forgetfulness. So long term, those who have celiac disease, if they do not manage it, it can cause even more symptoms like, for example, anemia, osteoporosis. Again, the skin rashes will be there. It can damage your teeth. It can actually damage your nervous system. Malabsorption is one of the biggest things that can occur. And what that means is, as long as a person with celiac disease, if there's any gluten inside of the body, I don't care how nutritious the food is after that, until the gut calms down and the inflammation leaves, you will not absorb any of the nutrients, period. You can have one meal that has gluten in it if you have celiac disease now. One meal that has gluten in it, and 3 meals after that, if that gluten is still inflamed, causing inflammation into the gut, then you're not absorbing any of that. It's just, so they end up having malnutrition, which again affects the bones, calcium. So those with celiac disease, they should be taking a multivitamin. And anemia is a big thing. And there's also an increased risk of cancer because, again, malnutrition, the body is not healthy. Um, and the biggest thing for me, though, again, was the foggy brain. Like, I really felt that is what made me stay away from gluten. Besides the 15 pounds of weight that I lost without any effort, like I didn't work out, I didn't do anything. I changed my diet, and it just dropped 15 pounds. And so I tell people, if you see me one day and I'm looking like me, and the next day I'm looking like swollen, especially around the abdominal area, that's when I've gotten hold to something that I'm not aware of that had gluten in it, and now I have to deal with that until it is out of my body. So make sure I didn't forget anything else I want to mention on that. Okay, so how do they test for gluten? Blood test. That's how mine was found. You can do a genetic testing for it, and they can also do a scope where they go in and look and see if there's any true damage to the intestines. But again, it's not a diet. It's lifelong. If you have celiac disease, you can't have gluten at all. Just take it out. You would, trust me, you will feel much better, because I do. I feel so much better, but take it out of your diet. Don't even try to well, let me try a little bit. No, you don't want it at all. You don't need it in your body at all. So where is it found? What foods are gluten found in? So again, anything that contains wheat, rye, barley, and the other grains. For example, breads, any type of bread, pie crust, cakes, pasta. Think of white flour. That's what I tell everyone. Think of white flour as, if it has that in it, then you don't want to ingest it. If you have celiac, and you want to watch how much you ingest if you have gluten sensitivity. So you can still have it, so they say, with the sensitivity, but you cannot have it in large amounts. So I brought on some things that I use, because again, for me, this has been trial and error. There are some products out there that are horrible. They taste horrible. So I'm going to bring on show you all some things that I feel like has helped me and my family, and we were able to actually tolerate it and eat it. So one of them is this brand. It's gluten-free. I don't know. I got a glare for some reason. This is rotini. This is pasta. I love this brand. So read the instructions on this, though, because if you boil it too long, it turns kind of to mush, and you will hate it. Read the instructions. It doesn't take long to cook, so read the instructions or the directions on how to cook it. So another brand, this is regular spaghetti. Again, gluten-free. So there's a lot more gluten-free options now than when I first started it. They even have elbow spaghetti, same kind. I love that brand. It cooks, and you won't even notice the taste. Another one, sauce. So sauce also can contain gluten. Soy sauce, for example, contains a lot of gluten. This is a spaghetti sauce that I found. It is gluten-free. I always read the label. If you see wrong way, here is gluten-free. So read the labels, make sure that it says gluten-free. Now, I will say there are some products that say gluten-free, and they're not 100% gluten-free, but your body will let you know if it isn't, because again, bloating, fatigue, some people, indigestion, some people have those symptoms. Well, I said don't use white flour. So what can I use? How can I fry? How can I make a cake? So this is one flour. I love this brand of flour. You can fry with it. You can make biscuits with it. You can do whatever you want with this flour. It is not as, how do I want to say it? The fluffiness of it is not the same as regular flour, but the flavor, it really, like, there's some that's really thick, and when you fry with it, it's just not the same. But this is the closest you can get to regular white flour. Also, self-rising cornmeal has flour in it. If you read the label, you'll see it. This is a gluten-free cornmeal. It is, I think it's one of the best, because I really like cornbread, and I can make this, and it doesn't bother me at all. So it can also be found in gravy. So again, take that flour. If you can, make your own gravy on the stove. YouTube, you can learn how to cook it on there. It's found in soups, especially the canned soups, like the cream of chicken, the cream of whatever. Just read the labels, and you'll see that a lot of those have white flours in it. And then some cereal. So also, again, read the labels. So I also said long-term that celiac disease can cause anemia. 2 herbal teas that have really helped me with my anemia. One is sarsaparilla tea. It doesn't have to be this brand. I'm just showing you the name. I really like that one. It's really good for iron. This has a high iron content. And also, I don't know if you can read that, burdock roots. I'm trying to get the glare out of the screen. Okay. This is another really good one for anemia. If you crunch or crave a lot of ice, try those teas. I was actually doing one in the morning and one in the evening. Now I will say this one is kind of bitter. It doesn't have the burdock roots. It's just got this bitterness to it that's kind of hard to swallow. I just drink a glass of it. I don't really add any sweeteners to mine. And the sarsaparilla, this one actually is the flavor root beer. So a lot of people, if you like root beer, you won't mind this one. So again, keep your water intake high. Avoid gluten if you have celiac or even a gluten sensitivity. You will notice a huge change. For me, again, the memory, return of my memory, the foggy brain, when it disappeared, when I lost the 15 pounds without any effort, when my energy came back and I can keep up with my kids, I was sold. I'm like, I don't need gluten in my life anymore. And I don't want it. I don't crave it once it's out. Now I will say, I know now when I do have gluten in my body, because again, my abdomen shows it. It's the abdominal swelling for me. I'm not an expert in celiac disease, I will say that, but I'm telling you things that have helped me and my family heal from celiac disease. There's really no cure for it. It's just a lifelong avoid these foods through your diet. So you all have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And that's all I have for today. I'll come on again to talk about some changes that I've made in regards to food allergies next for my son especially. So thank you for joining me. I hope this video helps someone. Again, any questions, you can always message me and I will surely respond. And till next time, you all have a good night.